Hello YouTube, my name's Dane Lemaitre and welcome to another review. This review will be on the four Great Western characters in the Thomas the Tank Engine range in Hornby. Also four Great Western characters in the television series. Obviously three of them were in the Railway series, only one was in the television series. So first of all we've got Oliver, we've got Duck, both Great Western engines. We've got Toad the Brakeman and Old Slow Coach, the coach. So they're all Great Western. First of all, I'll start off with my reviews on Oliver. If movies one's back. So here we have Oliver. Oliver, I think it's fair to say, is definitely one of Hornby's best models in the range. He's got, you can see, he's got. There's not much to say. He's got all the detailing. You see on top there. Again, he looks just like his television series model, pretty much. The back is also quite well detailed, and he's even quite well detailed underneath. To my knowledge, Oliver was released in around 2005. It says this model was made in 2004, but that's probably about right because they'd have to get them ready the year before, before they were actually released. There are a couple of things on Oliver that aren't quite right. One is the fact that at the back he's got these black wheels, whereas they shouldn't be black. And then something, I don't know if it's to say is wrong, but he's got a handrail. Again, it's not like his TV series model, he's got a handrail. And if you look carefully, it actually goes into his head. Which for poor Oliver, that might be rather painful. Oliver, so I think it's a fantastic engine. He's quite a sentimental one for me because he's my favourite colour, which is green. And if you didn't know, my middle name is actually Oliver. Yeah, so my middle name's Oliver. And also, the first ever episode of Thomas the Tank Engine I saw was the episode Escape, in which Douglas saved Oliver from scrap along with Toad. I bought this Oliver this year second hand. I will be honest, he was one of my more expensive locomotives, but I think it was fully worth it, and I certainly recommend that you get him if you haven't got him. Another thing, when I bought this Oliver, one of the handrails just there was missing, but as you can see I've managed to replace it, and it's slightly smaller than the other one, but you'd be forgiven to not notice as it isn't very, I don't think it's very noticeable. Another thing as well is Oliver originally came with traction tyres underneath, but this model doesn't. When I brought most of the Olivers, that if you look in other reviews on YouTube, do come with the traction tyres, but when I brought this one, the owner did tell me that the traction tyres were worn, and one of them was literally just dangling by a thread round his wheel, so I took it off. However, I put him around my layout with my track with without the traction tyres on, and occasionally when he starts, you do get a bit of wheel spin, but it runs just as well without the traction tyres, I find. So like I said, you get a bit of wheel spin at first, which you probably wouldn't get with the traction tyres, but like I said, he does still run really well. So I think he's a fantastic model. I'll give you my score on Oliver later once I've reviewed the other locomotives. Now we'll move on to Duck. Duck again, I think he is a superb model. I will say one thing though, he's got grey around here when it should in the television series should be black. The writing's nicely painted on him. He's got his number nicely painted on him as well. The detail on top, it does sort of look a bit sort of cheap, and it's a shame that it's not brass or anything like that. It doesn't quite look spot on, but it's, like I said, it's not too bad. Another thing as well is that his face is dark grey, which isn't not the right sort of colour. So it's a bit of a shame that his face is a bit dark. Also, he's got his wheel arches here, and they're painted to green when, again, they should actually be black, but again, I'm not 100% sure it's the end of the world. Still a good model nevertheless. I know some people have said in the past that Duck's not the best runner in the range, and when I first brought him, I did have to give him a bit of an oiling, which I expected to do anyway. But I've not had any issues with him at all. I think he runs really well. He's also got the same chassis as Thomas and the diesel shunters, Diesel, Harry and Bert. Again, I think that's all I've got to say on Duck. Really, I think he is a good model. I wouldn't quite call him one of Hornby's best models, but again, I think it's money well spent. So that was my thoughts on Duck. Now we've got Toad, the brake van. Toad I bought this year. I actually bought Toad before Oliver. I'll be completely honest, I won't say how much, but he is my most expensive piece of rolling stock. But I did negotiate and get a bit of money off of him. I think Toad again is really good. His face looks just like his TV series model. The one thing I would say is that he is painted. You might not be able to tell as well as I can, but he is painted brown. Of course, Toad isn't brown; he's grey. But But I still think detail-wise, obviously, he's come from the tooling of another Great Western brake van, which were all nicknamed Toads. So it's hard to find fault really, apart from the colour. I mean, you could paint it yourself, but then you'd probably end up painting over the lettering and be able to get it back. And I mean, the writing's there. I'm not going to paint my Toad. I think so. I'm happy with him the way he is. And I said, obviously, and I say he's a good runner. Obviously, he doesn't have an engine, but he rolls well. He does well. Yeah. Another thing as well is his wheels aren't very well. They're not very noticeable. They are silver wheels. Of course, they are black in the television series, but again, it's hardly noticeable. Not too bad. And there's the back of Toad. Like I said, all round, I think he's a really nice, detailed brake van. Like I said, it's a shame that he's not grey, but so I don't think it's the end of the world. As you know, Duck, Oliver and Toad all fairly recently came back to the television series. In the television series, Oliver was slightly taller than Duck. However, here it's the other way round. When I say the television series, I of course mean in the model series era. I think, unfortunately, when Oliver came back in the CGI series, well, it's not what I think, it's what's happened. He was a lot smaller than Duck in the episode Spencer's VIP, which is a bit of a shame, and he looks very out of proportion to the extent that he looks like a narrow gauge engine. I'll be honest, I'm not 100% keen on what Oliver looks like in the CGI series, but nevertheless, I'm happy to see him back. And who knows, maybe they might update him and make him bigger in scale, though I doubt it, but who knows. Duck, on the other hand, has come back into the series, and though there's been some details on him that have changed, one thing I definitely noticed is that obviously he's got a lamp on his one of his sandboxes. Duck hasn't changed significantly like Oliver. Toad, on the other hand, has also changed in the CGI series. He now has silver buffers. However, I think that would be quite realistic, as on heritage railways, I've seen brake vans like Toad, and they normally do have silver buffers. And he looks slightly longer and a bit bigger, almost bigger than Oliver, which does look a bit unusual. But I think Toad does look really good in the CGI series, and I can't really fault him really. Like I said, though, I think in Hornby, though, they're all fantastic, and I would recommend you get all of them. Now we move on to Old Slow Coach.